Hi, I'm Ethan Wong, and today I'm here with Vincent Folkes.
Hey everybody, I'm Vincent Folkes, Pittsburgh's 2019 Youth Poet Laureate of Allegheny County. I'm a poet, artist, writer, audio engineer, student, business owner. Yeah,
All right, that's great. We can get straight into the questions then.
all right.
So to begin with, when did you kind of first fall in love with poetry, and why did you start writing it as opposed to just reading it?
Mhm. I mean, I never even really read poetry. I started writing it because I was like super in love with music, and I would like write remixes to the songs I loved, and then I just started writing without music, and like people around me was like, "Yeah, that's poetry," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And I got into it because it was a way for me to let my thoughts out, um, and because I kept doing it, I got better at it, and I started sharing it with people, and then I started like really performing it when I won the competition.
All right. I mean, I think that's like a testament to how accessible poetry can really be because you don't even really need to read all the kind of, like classic poets or whatever to have your work be considered poetry and to be part of the poetry community at this point, right?
Mhm.
And so I wanted to add on to that. What kind of themes do you explore in your poetry?
I explore our love, racism, um, issues against like the trans community, the Black community, um, and even just regular emotions like sadness, depression, just like my everyday life stuff.
Yeah. And I think part of it is that, like, I think there's this propensity that people like to say that, like, oh, keep politics out of art or something. But I think for a lot of people whose like daily reality is politicized just as a result of their existence or just because of the communities that they exist between, I mean, they literally cannot write about like the common day stuff without writing
Yeah,
about, I guess, what you would consider like politics, right?
because that's their life, literally.
Yeah.
Can't escape it, so might as well write about it, get it out.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you? Like, what brought you to poetry?
I think what brought me to poetry was just like we had we had like an assignment in school, which was like you need to write something creative. And so I was like, well, poetry seems like the shortest one. I'm sure that's like the easiest one. So I like got started with poetry that way. But then I slowly like started to use poetry, not just like inside the classroom or not just writing it for any particular reason. I just wrote it because I felt like it. And then when that started happening, I think that's really when I was like, okay, I think this is something worth doing just without even thinking about it.
So what happened after that? Like, what kept you writing?
I think what kept me writing was that like the way I would use poetry is just kind of to vent whenever I was like feeling kind of stuck or whenever I had a bunch of built up or pent up emotions where I was like, oh, well, I don't know how to deal with this on a level and I don't really feel like talking about it with anyone because I don't know how I would express it into words normally in a normal conversation. So then I would just write out my emotions that way. I think that really helped. So just adding on to that, I mean, like when you use your poems to express your emotions and stuff, do you kind of perceive it more as a way for you to get like your personal confessions almost? Or do you think it's more as of a statement, like you're stating it to other people, or do you think you're stating it to yourself?
Man, I think it's a little bit of both. Like admitting it to myself, um, and then if I decide to share it, sharing with other people. Like most of the time, people feel the same.
Yeah.
Like, but nobody says so until somebody does. So when I write, it's more of just like a healing process for me to let out whatever that thing is, and then if I decide to share it, um, and people connect with it, that's even better. You know, that's it.
Yeah. I mean, something I wanted to add on to is that you mentioned earlier that you do like a lot of other mediums like artists, you do like you work with sound. And
Hmm.
so for you, what's special about poetry then in that case?
Man. When it comes to music, it's so many layers to master for you to like create a good project. And with poetry, you just need to be good with words, you know? And it's like the least stressful art form, I think, because with music, if you like, you have to learn the ins and out. You have to know the business. You have to be good at the music. If you want to mix your stuff, you have to know how to mix and master. If you want to make beats, you have to know how to make beats, and those things take time. But with poetry, I feel like that's like the baby of the whole process, because all you have to do is understand what it is you're feeling and know how to write it down and put it together in a way that resonates with you. So that's kind of what I love about it, is there's just no extra pressure. You could just write it and let it be.
Yeah, I definitely think that like out of all of the art forms, poetry is one of the easiest ones to say like I wrote this for myself and not necessarily to present or not necessarily to another person, just because of the way that, like you said, the way it kind of works when you write it out. Like if you, I guess, make a music piece or like compose something or create some other piece of art, you almost feel in a way obligated to kind of then share it because the effort that you've put in has kind of been directed towards that, like the sharing process, the like publishing or whatever. But with poetry, you kind of can keep it self-contained in that kind of way.
Yes. Yeah. Man, I haven't written poetry in so long. I probably should get back to it because the music has been stressing me out. Like, for real.
I mean, if something's stressing you out, I think that's like a pretty good catalyst to write some poetry about like, whatever it is you're feeling.
Yeah.
I think you could consider trying to do that.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. What was the last thing you wrote?
Last thing I wrote. Last thing I wrote was just kind of uh like a goodbye poem because I was thinking about like leaving because I'm still in high school right now, but I'm gonna be going off to college soon. So that's what's kind of
Okay,
on my mind.
that's what's up. How do you feel about that? Like,
I
new
don't know.
journey.
I mean, it's odd, but I guess at the very least I'm like excited to go to new places, meet new people, and kind of see what I can do outside of because for most of my life I've just been like the small town, but at least kind of going somewhere else, you know. So I think that's gonna bring a lot of emotions with it too.
Sure, man. Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
So just one more thing I want to ask before we could go into maybe one of your poems, if you feel comfortable sharing, is how did you get to the point, like what was the process, what was the thought process in your head where you were like, okay, I'm probably like a poet and not just someone who writes poems, if that makes any sense.
Um, I think the title was given to me, and I just
Hmm.
used to, and I started like sharing it with my friends and stuff. And I was also just like a good writer in school, just like academic stuff. Hi. And it was given to me. Like, I'm not even gonna not even gonna hold you. It was given to me. And I took it. I took it, and yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was like in a lot of ways the same because before I had like received the title of like National Student Poet or anything, I was like, well, I'm probably just someone who like writes poems on occasion for like myself or writes poems on occasions and then submits them whenever I feel like it. But even like when I got the title, I was like, I don't really know if I'm deserving of it. I think over time it took me like talking to a lot of different poets and like engaging with poets, not just like the big names or like whatever, but like smaller scale poets. And I was like, oh yeah, I mean, I feel like if I can think that all these people are poets, then I mean, why can't I be a poet? I think that's probably reasonable enough.
Right. I mean, you know what? You were good enough to win, you know? So don't forget that.
Yeah. Do you have a poem you'd like to share?
Yeah, sure. Let me scroll through. Yeah, you know what's crazy? I just did like a job, like a phone interview yesterday on the phone with somebody, and I
Hmm.
sent them a resume. and it had like the youth poet laureate on it. And
Uh-huh.
they were like, okay, well, you're a poet. Like, just say something, like spit a poem off the dome for this job interview. It had nothing to do with poetry at all. And I was like, okay, like, let's go. Yeah. I can switch locations, but this one is called The People. Speak for my people. Lord, what is evil? If we are but reflections of each other as a people. Time makes us fearful. We hate to hear that the people we dehumanize are carrying the weight without a payroll. Those with superficial power, they tend to label. Those who really got the power, they know we able and we capable to shake shit up. So what they do, they kill our spirits and divide us up. Cishet, black, white, dead men, telling everybody how to live their life. That ain't right, but still we rise. From the valley of the white man's shadow, why you looking so surprised? Our demise feeds our victory. The struggle takes us higher, turn the hate to serendipity, finessing all the lies and deception, the horror and the stressing, internalize isms and phobias that they make lessons. Need you to listen. Everything they say is fact is really fiction, an illusion meant to dim the light inside. So in conclusion, they can't tell us who is wrong and who is right. It's not delusion, it's a fairy tale. I pray you write your story well.
Thank you. That was great. The rhythm is really like, it flows, and I can tell like with, I guess, your influence and like the other stuff you do, it definitely fits in.
Thank you. Definitely has some like rap elements into it. I feel like it's fun when it's like that.
Yeah, I think like honestly, it's so, people like, I don't know why, but people always will like classify one over the other, but I think rap is like, has so many like intricacies with the way you have to like align the words with the certain rhythms of the words themselves, and then like the way you have to like arrange them. It's always seemed so hard to me, and I was like, dang. But yeah, thank you for that. Do you have
Oh,
any?
do we get one from you?
Oh, I mean, I wasn't planning on reading one, but I mean, I'll be sure to do that more for this channel actually in the future too.
Okay.
Do you have anything else you want to like say? Any closing remarks, like any advice you'd give to, you think, like young poets before we close it out?
Be yourself, tell your story, your authentic story, the life you live, because that's what matters and that's what people will connect to, even if they haven't lived that life. And just know that follow your passion. Like anything can be a career. You can be a poet as a career, you could be an artist as a career, you could be a writer as a career. Don't let the fact that the world hasn't caught up to it yet stop you.
Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you so much.
Thank you.